Hey everyone, Sam and Chris from Wyvern Kodiak here. Before we get started, like and subscribe, check out some of the other videos and content that we have on our channels. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for pressing play and joining me at the Wyvern Kodiak channel. I'm Chris, and today we're going to be taking a thoughtful look at a knife that many people admire, but not many people actually dissect in a very structured way. And that's the Tactile Knife Company Rockwall. Sam's off being an amazing father and husband someplace, and I would say in honor of him, if you are a good dad, you want to be a good dad, you had a good dad or have a good dad, do me a favor, hit that like and subscribe button, and let's do Sam proud. Today, as we evaluate the Rockwall, we're going to look at it from two different specifications. The specification one is going to be the designer's intent. Does the Rockwall actually meet the goals that Will Hodges and Matt Palmore set when they created it? The second thing is going to be my EDC work criteria. Does this knife work for me as a suit pants, office environment, boardroom safe, everyday carry that won't trigger alarms, damage dress fabrics, or look out of place at a wedding, a funeral, a business dinner, church, etc. And then we'll wrap up with a standard review that includes some options, the pricing, and who this knife is really for. So jumping into spec one, which is the designer evaluation, we first need to go to what the designers themselves said. So again, Will Hodges and Matt Palmore were the co-founders of Tactile Knife and the designers of this particular model they have. And they said when they opened the company that our intention is to make everything that we possibly can in-house, only buying raw materials and ceramic ball bearings. So I found that they source about all their materials from two suppliers, and everything there is machined locally in Dallas. So they create all the parts that they need for their knives. They machine it there, they assemble it there, they send it out from there. This isn't just assembled in Dallas or collaborated with in Dallas. It's all done, right there. I went on to look for other design requirements, and what they said their goal was when they made the Rockwall was to have a reliable EDC carry that's compact, it's precision machined, has premium materials, it's durable, it's understated, it's timeless, and heirloom worthy. So those were the claims that they made. So those are the specifications that we're going to measure it up against. So the first one is, is this compact? Man, it's 4.5 inches long. It does fill the hand nicely. It fits in the pocket, very, very well. And it's only about 1 inch wide. So I would say that that's compact. Other people may not. So I'll say that the spec is met, but with nuance. Let's put precision machine and premium materials together here. We've got a Magna Cut that's heat treated to 6364 HRC. Everywhere else, just about, is grade 5 titanium. It's got a inset liner lock. Very, very minimal hardware on here, but what we do have is countersunk. I do like that. We also have an invisible pivot flat, or nearly invisible pivot flat, right here. So it keeps the blade from spinning as you're adjusting the pivot or taking out the pivot or putting it back in. And it's got some really beautiful longitudinal milling here, and that blends right in with the pocket clip. So I think all of this and the design and the milling, etc., this is where I feel that Tactile really shines. They're outstanding machinists first, and then they're knife makers second. And I don't mean that as a negative. I think that is their superpower. If I think of great knife makers right away, I think of people like Jonathan McNeese, Chase Boatwright, Les George, and it feels criminal not to go on and on, but I don't want to make this a 30-minute video as I shout out all my favorite knife makers. But when I think of a knife maker, it's somebody who can fabricate a knife in several different ways, and a CNC and a water jet just happens to be another tool. When I look at Tactile, they're brilliant machinists. I've been using their pins for years. You know, this is my newest one from them, but I'm a fan of their pins, and you know, so that made it pretty easy for me to take a risk on checking out one of their knives. But precision machine, premium materials. You know, if you look here at just the tolerances, the amount of space that we have here is awesome. You know, the symmetry of the knife, this even tuck, you know, looks great. You know, the thinner, you know, that knife goes out to just a very fine point, but it never feels fragile or delicate. So, you know, I think that, you know, this pocket clip again, having that angle, you know, it's milled out here and angled to match the milling on the scales. It does nothing for the knife functionally, but it does everything for its refinement. So, you know, I would say in precision machining, premium materials, they met spec strongly. They pass out in flying colors. Durability. Our MagnaCut is in its sweet spot for hardness on this very thin blade stock. This one has DLC coating, you know, all the way across it, so it's going to reduce scratches. Rock solid lock geometry in there, so we're looking good there. And yeah, hardware, it stays in place. So, you know, I would say durability, the spec has been met. Timeless and heirloom worthy will put together also. This flat ground drop point doesn't have any trend chasing styling about it. This is something that either my grandfather or my grandson could carry and nobody would look twice. I think that's what timeless means. And as far as heirloom worthy, you know, to me, that says I'm an investment that you won't regret buying. And the Rockwall absolutely qualifies. So I would say spec met. The naming convention on this, does this look like a Rockwall? Nope. Would it help me climb one? Definitely not. I couldn't find anywhere where Tactile said where the name came from officially, but this was the very first model in their lineup. So I think that it's metaphorical for, you know, this is the first wall in the house that they were building. So I like that better than calling it the cornerstone or the foundation. So I don't think I'd have bought either knives named that. But the naming for me is neutral. It doesn't help it and it doesn't hurt it. So on spec one, final verdict, I think that that they nailed the design spec. So they hit every intended design mark and in some cases even exceeded it. So well done to Tactile Knife Company. Spec number 2 we're looking at is my work EDC evaluation. Is this a safe, appropriate, discreet, admirable knife for dress clothing and professional settings? This may be the part of the review that I think that benefits most listeners, or some listeners the most, let's say. Years of trial and error, years of buying knives or the wrong knives for the wrong situation, years of carrying a tactical folder into a boardroom where tactical folders don't belong, eventually forced me to build a criteria. You know, I've spent, you know, a few years now clicking the link in the bio and saving 10% from my favorite knife manufacturers, or excuse me, my favorite knife reviewers reviews. And I've got several now that I try to make that tool work for my application, and then decided, you know what, I need to have a better criteria for the knives that I'm going to be using. So In my professional life, both past and current, I meet with executives, I meet with customers, partners, and people who may not share my enthusiasm for knives. So I had to develop a pretty simple framework. And that's, first, is the knife safe? Second, is it capable? Third, is it non-threatening? Fourth, is it pocket friendly? And fifth, is it admirable? So let's walk through those. Safe, I need a secure lock. I also need a very strong detent. I don't want this opening up in my pocket, potentially cutting myself, or when I go to hand it to somebody or they hand it back to me, I don't want it opening up. I want comfortable ergonomics. I only want my knife sharp at the apex, nowhere else. And this is rounded out nicely just about everywhere. It's very comfortable. I look for one-handed opening and closing for knife people. That's something that we all really enjoy. But I also needed, the capability of having the old simple boomer grip for non-knife people. And the Rockwall, it checks every one of those boxes. So as far as safety goes, I believe the spec is met. Is it capable? So first and foremost, is it legal to carry in my pocket in the areas where I'm going to be carrying it? If there are any restrictions? Also, once it passes that, then is it, can it do the small professional tasks I need it to do? That's opening boxes, cutting loose threads, trimming zip ties, opening packages. I think that's where this, flat ground and this thin Magna Cut really excels. This isn't a hard use knife, but also we saw in the design specs that it never claimed to be. So again, I'd say spec met. Next is non-threatening. There are no tactical angles, no aggressive jimping. Look there, no strike pommel. And then also, we don't have any mall ninja geometry. So what we do find are soft lines, subdued milling, and an elegant drop point. So, the Rockwall to me looks like a tool and not a weapon. So that's exactly what I'm looking for in a professional environment. So I would say again, the spec was met. Is this pocket friendly? Dress slacks and suit pants are delicate, and a deep carry clip that slides in and out without tearing fabrics, very, very important. And this has ideal tensioning, for that application. I think that the weight of the in the slim profile absolutely is ideal, and again, that inset liner lock certainly allows us to be very thin and unobtrusive. So I would say again, spec has been met. And is it admirable? Because I'm shallow. I want people to like my knife. And I want this to be something that a non-knife person recognizes as high quality and something that a knife person respects. And, not something that's, so easily they could go pick it up at a local Bass Pro or a Walmart. So again, the Rockwall hits this perfectly. So my final verdict, Rockwall fits the requirement that I have for professional carry and absolutely belongs in my rotation. I've been carrying it to work now, for a few weeks, and so far so good. I'm really enjoying it. Some of the regular details. Let's do a couple size comparisons. Here we go with the PM3, PM2. You can see if we line up pivots, it fits right in between the two of them. And if we look at a drop bear and the ever classy QSP Penguin, bigger than both of those. And then let's compare it to something that fits its overall profile a little bit more. Let's look at it up against Benchmade 940, and again, they're right at the same size. So size-wise, I think it's a very capable knife for EDC. Some of the variants that this comes in has different handles. You can get a skelly handle, you can get different colors. Different finishes. They're not all DLC, so you've got some options there. There's a thumb flipper model, which is a little smaller than this flipper model is. And so it does give you some options there. And then the lock architecture. You know, let's start with looking at a traditional liner lock. So on a traditional liner lock, you've got this full liner that goes all the way around and then it's cut out. And then you have a scale that sits on top of the liner. When you look at an inset liner, the scale itself is milled out. And then you have the liner that sits inside of that milling. You know, and this allows the knife to be thinner, I think cleaner, lighter. Certainly, I think it's stronger than a standard liner lock. You know, with the scale sitting on top of it as opposed to sitting inside of the scale. So, great job there. We talked before, the steel is Magna Cut, and it is hardened to 6364 HRC. Dr. Laren Thomas says that's ideal for EDC. So we're going to get a combination of great edge retention and very good toughness and minimal chances of microchipping. Anytime you get a blade stock this thin, that becomes a risk. But I do think that Magna Cut is very tough, and at least for my applications will work exceptionally well. Weight-wise, we're under 2.8 ounces for a full-size knife, which is outstanding, and I think that makes it ideal for dress clothes. Sliding that into a suit jacket pocket or dress pants, that lightweight is outstanding. Depending upon which variant that you go with, we're looking somewhere between $329 and $429. On a QC note, when I received this, it didn't work well. The pivot kept backing out. It kept scraping. It wasn't centered. And I had a lot of problems getting it put back together. I ended up taking it apart and throwing some skiff bearings in it. Now, I don't want to say that's a tactile problem. I bought this, this is a rescue knife for me. I bought it, off the secondary market, and it said brand new in box. It looked brand new. Clearly, it had never been cut with, any of the marks that you see on here, or ones that I've put on it since owning it. But it very well could have been monkeyed with by the previous person that I purchased it from. I've never received anything from Tactile brand new that I had any problems with, so I don't know if that's if it was a QC miss or if it was the first owner doing that. So, who's this for? Anybody who wants a light duty EDC, minimalist carry, professional settings, a gentleman's carry, anyone who wants a timeless heirloom worthy USA made pocket knife. And so in closing, I'll say that the designer spec was met. I can say that with confidence. My EDC is fully satisfied. It's earned a permanent place in my work carry rotation. And I just want to thank everybody for press and play and joining us here at the Wyvern Kodiak channel. If this helped you think differently about evaluating knives, hit like and subscribe. And be sure to share it with somebody who carries the wrong knife to the wrong places entirely too often. And if you have a better criteria, let me know.